When we talk about wealth, most people immediately think of money. They think of compounding in terms of investments, interest rates, and financial growth. But in 4 decades of sitting with people, listening to their pain, their fears, and their triumphs, I have discovered a truth more profound than any financial principle. It is the truth that our emotions, too, compound. Every small feeling, every small habit, every small choice we make each day builds upon itself. Over time, it creates either an abundance of inner wealth or a bankruptcy of the soul. I have often seen people who appear strong, successful, admired by others, yet they sit in my office empty, anxious, and disconnected. And when I trace back their emotional history, it is not one great tragedy that left them hollow. It is the accumulation of small, unattended wounds, ignored feelings, suppressed truths. These were the little withdrawals made every day from their emotional bank. And just like money, if you keep withdrawing without depositing, one day you wake up to find the account overdrawn. But here's the miracle. The same way negative emotions accumulate, so too can positive emotions. If you make even the smallest deposits each day, an act of kindness to yourself, a pause to breathe, a moment to express gratitude, a conscious decision to listen instead of react, those little moments gather interest. They grow, silently, invisibly, until one day you realize you have a treasure chest of resilience, peace, and joy within you. This is the emotional compounding effect. Think of it like this. 1 minute of deep breathing, when you feel overwhelmed, might not feel like much. One small compliment you give to yourself in the mirror might feel silly. Choosing to forgive a minor mistake instead of punishing yourself may seem insignificant. But when you repeat these actions daily, they begin to accumulate. Over weeks and months, your brain rewires itself, your nervous system learns calm instead of panic, and your relationships start to breathe easier. The small becomes powerful. In 40 years of practice, I have learned to pay close attention to what people do with their ordinary days. Big events, marriage, loss, career shifts, they shape us, yes. But the true architecture of a person's inner world is built in the ordinary routines. How do you speak to yourself when you wake up in the morning? Do you deposit gentleness, or do you withdraw with criticism? How do you handle frustration when the world doesn't go your way? Do you add patience, or do you let anger drain the account? These daily choices define whether your soul is growing interest or accumulating debt. Let me share a story. Many years ago, I worked with a man in his 40s, successful in business, admired in his community. Yet he came to me saying he felt hollow, disconnected, unable to enjoy even his victories. As we spoke, it became clear that he had spent years withdrawing from his emotional bank. Every time he ignored his exhaustion, every time he numbed himself with overwork, every time he refused to ask for help, he was making withdrawals. He thought he was being strong, but what he was really doing was bankrupting his soul. His life had no deposits of joy, rest, or connection. He was wealthy in the outer world, but impoverished within. Contrast that with another client, a woman who had endured loss after loss. She had no easy life, but she had cultivated tiny daily habits, journaling for 5 minutes, walking in her garden, calling a friend once a week, whispering words of gratitude before sleep. These small deposits compounded. When hardship came, she was not broken. She had resilience, because her account was full. She had spent years building it. The emotional compounding effect is not glamorous. It doesn't look dramatic in the moment. It feels almost invisible. And that is why people underestimate it. They wait for big breakthroughs, big healing, big awakenings. But true transformation happens in whispers, in small, steady acts that gather power over time. Think of your emotional life as a river. Every drop counts. One drop may seem like nothing, but let the drops keep falling, day after day, and soon you have a stream, a current, a force that can carve valleys and nourish life. The emotional compounding effect is simply the law of accumulation applied to itself. Now, Many ask me, how do I begin? How do I create these deposits? The answer is simpler than you think. Begin with awareness. Notice your emotional transactions. Every time you criticize yourself, that is a withdrawal. Every time you pause and speak with compassion, that is a deposit. Every time you numb your feelings, that is a withdrawal. Every time you allow yourself to feel and honor those emotions, that is a deposit. These small choices accumulate into entirely different destinies. Another truth I have observed is that compounding works both ways. Neglect and negativity compound just as much as positivity. If you live in constant self-criticism, if you fuel your mind with comparison, if you never pause for rest, these daily acts will grow into anxiety, burnout, and despair. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen. This is why small awareness is so important, because the earlier you recognize it, the earlier you can shift your pattern. I want you to think of yourself as both the banker and the investor of your inner life. You decide the deposits, you decide the withdrawals. And the beautiful part is, it is never too late to change your strategy. Even if you have lived decades in emotional debt, you can start today with a single act of kindness, and that act will begin to grow. Let me also emphasize something important. Deposits are not always about positivity in the cheerful sense. Sometimes a deposit is sitting with grief instead of running from it. Sometimes a deposit is admitting your anger instead of pretending it doesn't exist. A deposit is any act that brings honesty, awareness, or compassion to your inner world. That is how the account grows, through truth, not through denial. And so I return to the word that defines this principle: compounding. We underestimate the small because we crave the big. But it is the small, repeated steadily, that creates the big. Just as 1 rupee invested daily grows into a fortune, 1 moment of awareness, 1 act of kindness, 1 pause for breath, 1 gentle choice, over years, these create a life of depth and richness. I can say this with certainty. The people who are most at peace are not the ones who had the easiest lives. They are the ones who made consistent deposits into their inner bank, no matter what life threw at them. They built resilience drop by drop, habit by habit, choice by choice. So tonight, before you close your eyes, ask yourself, what deposits did I make today? Did I nurture myself? Did I add patience to my account? Did I give kindness to someone else? And if not, what one small act can I do tomorrow to change that? Remember this truth. You are never powerless. You are compounding your emotional wealth every single day, whether you realize it or not. The only question is, are you growing interest, or are you falling into debt? Choose your deposits wisely. For one day, you will look back, and the balance you have built will not only define your peace, it will define your life.